Hey there, welcome back. So, if you struggle with prioritization, all right, this video is going to be incredibly helpful for you. Now, let me set the stage a little bit around kind of what I mean when I'm talking about if you struggle with prioritization. So, like so many women I know, let me know if this resonates with you. You have a to do list that feels like it's a mile long and you're playing whack a mole with it, right? Every time you check off one thing, three more things get added. And the longer the list gets, the harder it is for us to prioritize. Basically, because if it's on the list, we're saying this is important and it needs to get done. And so when we have a window of time to work on something, we're like, I'm really struggling. Which one should I do first? And we struggle with this because, unfortunately, the vast majority of productivity experts out there constantly give you the same lousy advice, which is take your list and identify your top three priorities, focus on those, and then magically, when those are done, then we can do everything else. Let me know if you have been given this advice. Now, for most women, this feels impossible because if I were to look at a traditional to do list, I'd be like, excuse me, there's way more than three things in here that are a top priority. So now I'm stuck in this paralysis analysis mode of like stressing out about trying to find the top three. Now, another reason why prioritization can really, really trip you up is if you're working from the long list, right? And you're like, okay, I got to pick my top three. It's in the moment, meaning you are in this exact moment making a decision about what to do next, which means you're subtly trying to figure out what's most important. And in the moment decision making creates a lot of anxiety, which triggers responses in our head that usually means that we make poor decisions. We hit the low hanging fruit. So if you are someone that struggles with prioritization and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even understand it all needs to get done. How do I prioritize it? Today, I want to share with you two different kind of stories, if you will, at the grocery store. And I believe this is the most powerful way to show what's missing typically when we sit down to prioritize. And then, more importantly, how we fix this. All right. So let's take scenario number one, which is today probably a lot of the ways that people shop, right? You have a list, or sometimes you might even just walk into the grocery store and shop for the week. You're like, oh, I got to pick up food for the week. And maybe you even have a list, right, of all the stuff that you've decided to buy for the week. So you're going through the grocery store, you're adding the stuff to your cart. But then as you pass that end aisle, you're like, Doritos, that sounds good. Wasn't on my list, but it's nacho cheese. So of course it's going to go in the cart, right? So you continue about your grocery shopping, getting the stuff on your list, other stuff being tossed in. Now you get to the register, they ring you up and they say, hey, it's going to be $150. All right. Now, in today's world, most people pull out a credit card and pay for it. But let's pretend we're back many years ago where we were doing a lot of shopping with cash, right? So you go open up your wallet and you go, oh no, I only have $120. You didn't realize that you didn't have enough money. Now, the grocery store is full. There's a line of people behind you, and they're watching this exchange happen. They're seeing you at the checkout. The cashier is saying $150, and you're looking in your wallet and seeing you only have 120. Well, what is your option in this situation? Well, there's really two. You could just run out, forget the whole thing. But in the moment, you're likely going to make decisions about what you're not going to buy. All right. Now, in this scenario, it's in the moment decision making. You're feeling anxious. You might be feeling a little embarrassed because these people are watching this go down. And so, are you going to assess everything that you've bought and take another 20 minutes to decide what makes the most sense for me to take, to remove? Of course not. You're going to be making knee jerk reactions, which means you might just look for the most expensive thing, which maybe it was like a whole bunch of chicken breasts or something, which may have been the best bang for your buck in terms of like how it's going to feed you all week, but you're just going to make in the moment decisions and take them off until you get down to the time that, or the money that you have, right? Now, this example is how so many people are operating their life today. They've got Nikki saying bye bye Doritos. Well, what if they put those in the bag first and you can't even see them anymore, right? Or I'd be like, I'm keeping my Doritos. We make knee jerk reactions, and when we're operating from that daily to do list or weekly list or whatever, here's what's missing. All right. And in that first exam, the example I just gave, here's what's missing. Number one was you didn't do your due diligence up front to say, how much money do I actually have? What's my budget here? Right? You walked into the store without even realizing you only had $120. You also walked into the store with kind of just a vague idea of like, oh, here's some stuff I'm going to get, but then you're adding stuff as you go. Right? So you don't have your budget. You don't have a clear like goal in mind of the purpose of this shopping trip. And so as you're going about your shopping, you're not really thinking about how much each individual item costs. You're just reacting to what feels good and maybe doing some, getting some things off your list. So let's now shift into a different style of grocery shopping. Now imagine I hand you $120 and I say, here's $120. You need to get food to feed yourself for the next week. All right. You are not allowed to buy any more food this week. Now imagine how you're going to shop going through the grocery store. All right. First, what are you going to be looking at as you're adding items to your cart? Well, you're likely going to be looking at the cost of each thing, right? Instead of just grabbing something and putting it in, you're going to be a little thoughtful. So now you're thinking, all right, how much does each thing cost? And you're mentally, or maybe I'm getting your calculator out, adding up. Am I staying in my budget? Now, the other thing the second example has is a pretty clear purpose. This food needs to feed you all week long. You are not allowed to buy more food. So now I'm entering the grocery store with three critical things. I have my budget, my $120. I have my goal. And then now I'm shopping with the awareness of how much each thing costs. So a couple things are going to happen as I'm grocery shopping, right? As I'm making choices, maybe I'm thinking, okay, I know I need to get some proteins, and you're a meat eater. Now you're in the meat section and you're looking around. There's pork, there's chicken, there's beef. Is anything on sale? What could I cook a lot of and then maybe use leftovers, right? You're coming at this very thoughtfully. So you're going about your shopping trip, and now you hit that end of the aisle with those gorgeous Doritos. Now you get to have a very different conversation, right? In scenario one, where we had no budget, we didn't really have a clear defined goal. We're like, I can always come back later if I need to. We weren't thinking about the cost of things. We throw the Doritos in the cart. But now in this example, it's going to be a very different conversation. You're going to be assessing, how much of my budget have I spent? How much do these Doritos cost? Does this make sense with how I want to be eating this week? Now, I'm not saying you don't buy the Doritos. You may still buy the Doritos, but it's a thoughtful, intentional choice. You may also say, I'm not buying the Doritos, and here's why. I want to use that money on this other thing instead, right? You're being very thoughtful about what you're giving priorities to. So now when you get to the register, you get there with confidence knowing, all right, I have everything that I need, and I know I have the budget to support this. So let's bring this back to our conversation around prioritizing how we're spending our time, right? If you just have this endless list that you're working from all the time, you're missing your budget, right? And it's a time budget instead of a financial one. It's just a list. No one's telling you, hey, you have 10 hours available. Here's all the things competing for your time, like the grocery store. Here's all the food competing for your attention. So when you're operating from a task list, you're missing that initial budget. You also typically aren't taking the step back to think about, what's my purpose here? What is, at the end of this week, where do I want to land, right? And you're also missing the cost of every single thing on that list. I've never met anyone who makes a long list and then writes down what the cost of each thing is, right? It's just a list. We have no idea if we're going to get to the checkout line and discover we don't have the funds to buy it. Nikki's saying, yes, Doritos, because taco salad's on the menu. Exactly. You may be making those choices of like, oh, well, hey, I'm getting all this ground beef, right? And Doritos fit in, and then that will be my little treat for lunch every day. So totally with you. So here's what we do instead. We need to start planning our weeks and our time the same way we would plan a thoughtful trip to the grocery store if we are working on a budget, right? And this is what I love about weekly planning. Because remember those things that I was talking about that we're missing? When we're just running every day from our to-do list, we're missing our budget. We're really lacking purpose and direction. And we don't know the cost of the things that are competing for our time. Now, when we do weekly planning the way I teach it inside my top program, it solves all those problems, right? The whole purpose of weekly planning is to make sure that we are driving with purpose, right? We're going about our day with purpose. We know how much time we have, and we know the cost of or the time that everything on that list takes. And now we build out a map of how we are going to operate. All right. Now, the purpose of weekly planning is not to turn you into a robot and have you marching around telling you what to do and when you do it. It's to support you in your priorities. So, the way I teach weekly planning, you never hear me say, pick out your top 3 priorities. I have way more than 3 priorities in any given week, unless like I'm on vacation, in which case it's like go where the wind takes me, right? But when you create a plan the right way, right? Here's an example of my plan for the week. This is ensuring that I'm not getting overbooked. I'm not getting overscheduled. At the end of the week, I'm not going to be left with a bunch of food I can't buy because I ran out of money, right? I'm not going to have all these tasks that didn't get done because I ran out of time. So if you are continuing to struggle with, I got all this stuff to do, I can't figure out what's important. It's likely because you're missing your budget, you're missing the cost of everything that's competing for your time and your purpose. And when we have all of this in place, it supports us with our decision making and our prioritization. Now, does it mean that you're going to love priorities and they're instantly going to pop up and be like, here they are, Megan? No, but what it does do is it gives you a framework and it gives you a calm, intentional way of thinking through it. And it doesn't limit you to this top 3, which I have yet to find any proof or science around why people keep landing on that number. So I hope that you found this helpful. Denise, thanks for saying it's a great analogy. I'm always trying to think of like what are really, time is so out there, right? We can't see it, we can't feel it like we can with, a lot more physical stuff. So I'm always looking for ways to say, okay, how do we make this pragmatic real? Something that we can more, easily relate to. And when it comes to time, I think money is always one of the easiest connection points there. So if you have never tried weekly planning before, all right, and if you haven't seen what it looks like, I've got a like super basic intro to this that I teach inside of my app. So if you have not grabbed my app yet, I have an app on the App Store and Google Play. It's called The Pink Bee. All one word, just search for that. You'll see this icon right here, the pink bee icon. When you download the app, there's some free training in there. You can just start watching right away. And then there's a little mini bundle of courses as well that you can upgrade to that includes this introduction to weekly planning. Because if you're hesitant to do it because you feel like it sounds super restrictive and you're like, oh, but I like to go where the wind blows and takes me and all of that. There's a reason why I have structure is freedom here. When you see it the way I teach it, that's when you go, oh, I get it. This actually gives me more freedom than just making in the moment decisions with my time. Now, if you've watched this video, I guarantee you, and come back and let me know. The next time you go grocery shopping, you're going to be thinking about this. And that is what I hope for, because the more you think about it, then the more you're going to apply it to how you operate your life and how you think about prioritization. All right, friends, if you found this video helpful, please feel free to share it with a friend that you know is struggling with prioritization as well. So many of us are. Again, don't blame yourself. This is something that just isn't taught, but it's something we all need to learn. All right, have a great week. I'll see you back here again real soon.